Good morning everybody, this is your Thursday's English lesson and we are actually going to begin writing our explanation text. So the first part of our explanation text is going to be writing an introduction because as you know, every explanation text needs an introduction. That's what we looked at on Monday when we did our text detective on the page which you talked about the hot air balloon. So we're going to write an introduction. So first we must begin with the title for our explanation text. We're not explaining how to do the mummy. We're not doing that yet. We're not doing those steps. We are simply explaining why we are doing the mummification process as a whole. So not thinking individual steps, we're thinking of mummification as a whole. So we're going to explain to our audience, which is the priests. So the priests are the people that mummified all the bodies. So we're pretending that this is a new priest and maybe it's an exam for him to become a high priest, and he has to read our explanation text in order to follow these steps so he can mummify successfully. So we must explain to the process what happens if he does it well, so the good things about going to the afterlife and that he'll be rewarded, but we also need to think about the severity of if he did it wrong. So obviously if they believed that this mummification process was wrong, they believed they wouldn't go to the afterlife and then they would be eaten by the god Amit. So we need to make sure that our audience know how important this process is. So in our success criteria, we have 5 things. We have our modal verbs, so our may, should, could, will, must. So those are our degree of possibility words. So that tells me the severity of that verb, if I must do it or if I may do it. So is it something that I definitely have to do, or is it a step that I can be a little bit not bothered about? So we've definitely got to put those in. We've got the high-level vocabulary, which runs throughout this explanation text, because they need to know each of these words, what it means. So we're not just going to say, pull the brain out. We're going to talk about hook the brain out in our explanation. So we need to make sure we're using the correct vocabulary that matches to the mummification process. We're using brackets for extra information. We're using these conjunctions to blend our sentences together, to put either a main and a subordinating clause together or 2 main clauses together, and just to make our sentences really well structured and to give them an explanation as to why we do a process. And we're also going to fit in some adverbs of manner. So we are going to tell them how to do something, if they're going to do it gently, if they're going to do it ferociously. So let's have a look at what I am expecting. So here I have wrote my own. So as you can see at the top, I'm going to underline it in the black, which is here. I have my title. So the first thing that you need to do after you've wrote today's date and LO is write your title on the middle of your page at the top, which is how to mummify a body. That is what we are explaining. So here I have my first paragraph. Careful preparation of the mortal remains of our esteemed pharaoh will ensure their smooth passage to the afterlife. These orders must be followed precisely so we can ensure the soul of the pharaoh to be successfully admitted to their long-awaited paradise. Failure to complete each vital step will result in their eternal soul being devoured ferociously by the ancient demoness Amit. Trainee priests, apprentices, should be committed to the meticulous preparation of the corpse, and they must not deviate from the sacred steps explained below. So that's my introduction. I'm going to go through my success criteria over here at the right, just to make sure I've got everything. So modal verbs, I'm going to underline in purple first. So I have will, can, will, should, and must not. So each of these verbs tells me if the degree of possibility. So if I should do it, I must not do it, I can do it. So it tells me specifically in that verb the instruction of me doing it. For the priests, so esteemed pharaoh, he will ensure their smooth passage. We can do this, we will do this. So I've got some in there. High level vocabulary, I'm going to do in dark blue. So everything that's going to make my explanation text sound very up-leveled and fancy. So I've got them in blue here. I've got mortal remains, which is just another way of saying a dead person. Esteemed pharaoh means that they're looked upon quite highly. So the pharaoh that was like worshipped. We've got the word pharaoh. Make sure you're spelling it correctly in yours. Awaited paradise, which is just a nice word rather than saying afterlife all the time. Their eternal soul, so the soul that's inside of them, and their eternal means forever, so their forever soul being devoured, which means eaten, and then our keyword, the demoness Amit, which is the god that eats the soul, and if they get declined from the afterlife. And then we've got meticulous preparation, so it means special, particular preparation, and deviate means go away from. So if you deviate from the plan, it means that they're not following the instructions properly. So I've got some high-level vocabulary that we can use thesauruses and dictionary for to make sure that we can up-level some of those words. Bracket, I've only got one set of brackets in that, which is fine, which is just apprentices, which is my extra information for what the trainee priests are. And then I'm green, I'm going to look for some conjunctions. So I've got two conjunctions in there. I've got so and I've got and, which are part of our fanboys. They are coordinating conjunctions. They're joining two main clauses together. And I've got two in there, so and. So not too many. They're just explaining as to why those orders should be followed, and telling me that they must not deviate from the sacred plan. So giving me some extra information. And then finally, adverbs of manner, I will do it in yellow. So I've got precisely, successfully, and ferociously. So they give me extra information as to how something is going to be done. So the orders are precisely being followed, so they can be successful, and then ferociously gives me more information about how Amit will devour the soul. So it tells me how something is going to happen. So that's your first task. You are going to look at the success criteria, you're going to write your title and your introductory paragraph. It shouldn't be too long, maybe a quarter of your page. So task 2, we're going to look about writing our next paragraph and telling our priest what they will need. So next we need a subheading, just like it was in the hot air balloon, and we need a small paragraph giving us a little bit extra information about the corpse and what equipment the priest will need to complete the process. So you've got two things that came with your packs that were handed out last week. Try and find those now, please. They're the mummified instructions that we used yesterday, and there's a completely new one that should be in your pack that talks about how to mummify a body. So find the sheets that look like that and get them at the ready. And then we've got the list on both of the things that we will need. Just like we have them on instructions, we always have a list of ingredients we'll need in a cookbook, or things that you'll need to put up a shelf. So we need things that we're going to need to mummify. So my next little paragraph has a subheading, so it's the journey to the afterlife. It gives me a little bit more information to give to my priest about what the mummification process entails and why they do it. But the most important thing it does is give my mummification a list to the priest of what he will need. So just like you've got in front of you, those two sheets, it's got information about what he will need. You're going to have a look at that now, and then we're going to read it together. So, the pharaoh you're about to mummify believed that when they died, their soul would leave their body for a short time. After the mummification process and tomb burial, the soul will return, and together they can live forever in the afterlife. You must take this procedure seriously, because many cannot afford it, for it is a very expensive process that can take around 70 days or over 2 months to complete. It is a great honour to be asked to prepare a being for the afterlife, so you cannot make inaccuracies. Please ensure you have these items to hand: 3 buckets of fresh Nile water, 5 kilograms of natron, 1 sharp edge knife, 1 long hook, 4 canopic jars, sawdust, 375 meters of linen, sacred amulets, fake beauty materials, horsehair, resin and makeup, a face resemblance death mask and a solid gold coffin. So now, after this paragraph, I am ready to start giving my explanation instructions. But I'm just going to go through my success criteria that's down on your screen on the right hand side and make sure I have got everything. So first of all, in black, yes, I have my subheading. So I've got my title. Now I've got a small subheading which talks about the journey to the afterlife. Next, modal verbs. I'm going to do those in yellow, and I'm going to see where my degree of possibility is. So see if you can spot them. Okay, so I've got those in yellow. So I've got will, can, must, cannot, can, and cannot again. So they're going to tell me the severity of the instructions. The soul will return and together they can live forever. So that's much better than saying the soul might return and together they would or could live forever. It gives me a bit more impact. So I'm going to look out for those in your writing. High level vocabulary, again, those things that make your writing sound year 5 and really up leveled. You're going to use some thesauruses or Google dictionaries that are going to help your writing sound so much better. So let's underline something that makes my writing stand out. So in red, I've got my high level vocab: soul, pharaoh, mummification, tomb, burial, afterlife, procedure, which is just another fancy word for you may take this procedure, so this these steps, it just makes it sound a bit better. For it is a very expensive process, rather than saying it's only for the rich, it's an expensive situation. We've got prepare a being, so rather than a human or a mummy, I've said change that word. So you cannot make, and instead of mistakes, I've said inaccuracies. So they are inaccurate with their instructions. So inaccuracy means I don't want them to make any mistakes. So I've just up leveled a few words, and some of them are specific. So mummification process, that's specific to our writing. Make it sound a little bit more high level. So brackets, I've got 2. I've got extra information over here. So 70 days tells me over 2 months, so it's a little bit more extra information. And fake beauty materials, and then in brackets I've told you what kind of things I'm referring to. So horsehair for a wig, resin for like a moisturizer, and makeup to make our mummy look beautiful. So we've got extra information here as to what the fake beauty materials are referring to. And I've got some conjunctions, so I'm going to underline those in purple. So I've got after, which is a subordinating conjunction, because, which is a subordinating conjunction, so, which is a coordinating conjunction, and which is a coordinating conjunction as well. So I've got for as well, which is the beginning of our fanboy, so it's a coordinating conjunction. So it's bringing 2 sentences together, and my 2 subordinating ones, after and because, are giving me extra information and joining a subordinate with a main clause. The after the mummification process can also double up as a time adverbial, because it's telling me after something's happened, this is what you do next. So that can be doubled up as well. And then finally, we've got a what you will need list, which is really easy to spot, because instead of it being like instructions how you'd have a list with bullet points, this is just a list with commas, with starting, making sure you've got that semicolon at the beginning of the list, and we've got all of everything that I will need in this section here. So I'm just going to do a blue circle around it, and it says please ensure you have these items to hand. So it's not saying a you will need, it's saying make sure you have it. So it just sounds a little bit better than making sure it's you will need, which is a little bit informal. So I've listed everything that we're going to need for the mummification process. So this is the last thing that you have to do today. So I'm expecting 2 paragraphs, one which is your introductory paragraph, and the second which gives me a little bit more information plus what I will need. Again, you can go back through this slide in this video to use my models, to look at the success criteria to make sure you've got everything. So your 2 paragraphs together should be around half a page, a little bit more maybe, to make sure that we're ready for tomorrow to start actually writing the step-by-step explanation instructions. Again, upload it to Dojo so I can mark it and see it. Please make sure you take a picture, or alternatively, you can take a video of yourself reading out your paragraphs. However, I would like to see it so that I can mark it properly. Thank you.